Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Harmony Foundation podcast series, and I'm pleased today to be joined with Luca Pax and Soren Thomas with Queer Asterisk out of Boulder, Colorado. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
It's really good to have you here. Before we get into specifics around Queer Asterisk, let's talk a little bit about what got you into the field of addiction treatment, Soren.
So, let's see. I grew up in Europe, where there was a very different culture around drinking, and started drinking young. So before I had come to the States, I was already sober at 17 years old. And it was just, I think, right time, right place, so that played into it for sure. But I got to the University of Notre Dame, and the first person I met and really felt a mentorship vibe with was the director of Alcohol and Drug Treatment Center. And so I became a peer mentor and just got more and more involved and did that for years. And so I started at the University of Notre Dame, and I continued a peer mentorship program at Naropa University. And then I went on to do my CAC classes and get my LAC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there something that you feel pulled to in working with people with addiction and helping them with their recovery?
You know, I think that what draws me the most, and now I'm realizing this more as I understand my queer and trans identity, I think the pull is the misunderstood community. And I really resonate with the stigma of, what addicts have to deal with. It's similar to mental health, and it's similar to prejudice that marginalized groups deal with.
That seems very appropriate. Very appropriate. So Luca, Queer Asterisk is a therapeutic program, and it provides services to LGBTQIA. Can you describe the type of services you offer and what a client would expect when they come to your program?
Yeah. So, edit that part out. We have a lot of different ways to get involved with Queer Asterisk. So one thing we're most known for is our team of, right now it's 6 queer and trans identified therapists who work with individuals or couples or families, and also run groups sometimes. So that's the clinical side of things, and with that we have also added a peer mentorship program, so that's more affordable, either supplement or alternative to folks who are looking for therapy. Our peer mentors have all sorts of different specialties and interests, so it can be really tailored for folks who are looking for a companion or a buddy to go into the world with or to talk through things with in a more friendly and supportive way. And then we have our programming, so it's all either low-cost or donation-based groups that happen every week or twice a month. We have a group called Queer Conversation, where folks are able to talk about anything related to queerness or their experience with that. And we have a writing group. We have different workshops that happen periodically, everything from an herbalism workshop to acupuncture. We have folks who are working with, we had a Creating One Style group where folks were doing fashion design. So it's really, really broad and open to what members of the community are wanting to see happen, and how they're wanting to share their skill sets or passions. And we have lots of different community partnerships. So a lot of our events are in relation with other organizations. We do queer nights. We had one at Frequent Flyers Aerial Dance. We had one at Buffalo Exchange Clothing Store. So again, really focusing on therapeutic ways that we can be in community with each other, and really they tend to have a pretty celebratory theme of not just this sort of resilience, but really what does it look like to thrive as queer and trans people, and do that in community with each other, and supporting each other. So those are some of the main avenues of getting connected. And as far as what people would expect by being seen from our staff, Soren can speak more to the clinical side, but a lot of our facilitators have a mindfulness approach to holding spaces, and so sometimes that looks like being comfortable with discomfort, holding some pauses. There's a slightly different feel than a lot of support groups. We don't segregate based on gender identity or expression, and so we get a lot of people in spaces who may have really different experiences of what it means to be queer and or trans, but it ends up being a really unique space where we're able to connect in a lot of sometimes unexpected ways, and to acknowledge how many tensions and differences there are within our community, but to be more, more committed to leaning into that instead of just parsing ourselves out into smaller and smaller groups.
And also, going back to what you said, Soren, it's also looking at how do you help people understand, how do you help create safe space, and how do you address the stigma that often comes along with that. So it sounds like you all are creating something that's responding to those issues.
Yeah, we do that, and we also do it with our community partnerships, and that's why the educational branch of what we do is so important when we look at the whole of all the aspects of what we do. And so that's going into, there are so many organizations who are realizing that they would benefit from a little bit more comfortability with inclusivity and diversity. And so then they reach out to organizations like ours and say, hey, could you give an all-staff training, or could you look at our materials and make sure that our languaging is inclusive? And we really want to have our whole organization behind this and be able to hold queer and trans clients the way that we hold our other clients, and we're missing some skills.
You all are definitely creating a very unique service that is much needed, for sure. So I'm going to ask both of you this question, because it's not just about learning about Queer Asterisk, it's about learning about the people behind it. So we're going to ask a little bit about your thoughts around this idea, and I'll start with you first, Luca. If you could have a giant billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, getting a message out to millions or billions, what would it say and why?
First thing that comes is just a simple statement for anyone, because I believe it applies to anyone, of you are valid and you are worthy. I think that for so many people with so many different identities within and without of queer communities, that is something that's incredibly lost in many societies, but I'm speaking specifically to dominant society here in the U.S. Really, that seems like kind of at the core of a lot of what I care about is this sometimes radical notion that we are actually whole and worthy of love and respect in light of all of our different experiences of the world and ourselves. Yeah.
I really like that a lot. Let me steal that. I really like
for
that.
It. It's free.
It's really, it's true. How about you, Soren?
Yeah, I would say, to go off of that, I think I would probably say something along the lines of claim your gifts, please. The world needs you. And I truly believe, and it's a value at our organization, that everyone has inherent, innate gifts. And sometimes we can get so distracted, especially marginalized people, by surviving in this world and fitting in and proving our worth and our value, that we forget that we also have something to give. And so that's part of, that's a huge reason why this organization started with queer and trans folks, is, looking around, there are enough of us who are professionals, who are capable and competent to bring our gifts to the world, and we don't need to rely on allies. Allies are wonderful, but there was so much gatekeeping that was happening, and it just perpetuates the sense that queer and trans people are less than, and we need to go to cis straight people for our psychotherapy, for our medical exams. Yeah.
It's great. I love the messages. Those are significant. I think they're the best ones I've heard so far. Best ones I've heard so far. So, Soren, playing off the idea of word harmony, what do you think it means to live in harmony?
Yeah, for me, when I think of harmony, I think of balance and alignment, of course. And I also think immediately, in this environment that we're in right now, balance in ourselves, in our relationships, and also our relationships with the non-human world. And what is it like for humans to truly, live, tread lightly and live in harmony with the rest of the beings around us. And then, intrapersonally, I think of having a balance of, these are things that I'm working on and things that I can always do better, and then also saying at a certain point, that's good enough. And I also have these gifts. Yeah.
Like
so
it.
not going too far into the light or too far into the dark. Yeah.
Also, it really makes me think of integrity too. And when we're looking at the journey of a queer and trans person, like really, what does it mean to live in integrity with who you are, and what does it mean to have that alignment seen as valid and real by like have that be reflected in your communities and in your families, and just so much possibility is grown from that place of getting to be in harmony with oneself and with one's purpose and gifts, and and to have that be supported.
Having that tribe of people,
Yeah,
I agree.
sure.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, community.
Yeah. So, Luca, if someone wanted to access services at Queer Asterisk, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we have a website, which is www.queerasterisk.com, and that's ASTERISK, like the punctuation. And we have Facebook, which is facebook.com/queerasterisk. You can also follow us on Instagram, but to reach our clinical director, who's Soren, you can email info@queerasterisk.com to get in touch with a therapist with whom you can do a free 20-minute consultation, or you can call us anytime at 720-507-6161.
Outstanding. Well, it was a pleasure to have both of you here today
Thanks
at
so
Harmony.
much, Gina.
Really great.
Yeah, thank you.